Fury asked her what the problem was. Carol explained everything Talus had told her about the rogue Skrulls known as the Illuminati. She detailed their dark plans for the universe. Fury admitted that was terrible news. He realized they could already be on Earth without anyone noticing. Carol suddenly grew suspicious. She demanded that Fury tell her something only he would know. Fury felt offended and asked if she thought he was a Skrull. Carol ignited her glowing fists and ordered him to speak. Fury sighed and told her to relax. He reminded her about the night they searched for the origins of Goku. He mentioned how she fell asleep on the shoulder of the Saiyan. He added that Goku gently laid her head on his lap and let her rest. Carol instantly turned bright red and powered down her fists. She awkwardly agreed that his embarrassing story confirmed his identity. Fury laughed and asked what her next move was. Carol planned to ask around the galaxy to find their hidden base. She warned Fury to be extremely careful with everyone he met. Fury told her that if things went wrong they always had her alien boyfriend to help. He suggested she inform Goku, because his massive strength would be very useful. Carol shouted his name in pure embarrassment. She quickly announced she had to leave. Fury just laughed and said goodbye. Back at the compound, Tony asked Goku if he had picked a superhero name yet. Goku thought about it and suggested Kakarot. Tony agreed, and told him it was time to officially introduce him as the newest member of the Avengers. Tony told him to get dressed. He noted that he did not make a mask for him. Goku used his super speed to change clothes. He said a mask would not be a problem. He explained he could just transform into a Super Saiyan to hide his normal appearance. Pepper told Tony it was time. Tony led the young warrior into the press room. Tony spoke into the microphone and promised the world a new hero. He introduced Kakarot as the newest official member of the Avengers. Goku stepped forward feeling a bit nervous. He was not used to dealing with huge crowds. He showed off his bright golden hair and emerald eyes to the public. His handsome transformed appearance made several women in the audience blush. He said a few words and answered some questions before leaving the stage. Tony patted his shoulder and praised his performance. Goku rubbed the back of his neck and admitted he was not used to so much attention. Tony assured him he would get used to it. Tony then announced he had to leave to take care of some business in the city. Goku waved goodbye and headed back to the main lounge. Goku greeted the rest of the team. Steve told him someone was waiting outside for him. Goku asked who it was. Steve and Sam just gave him teasing smirks. Goku might have been innocent in many ways, but he understood exactly what they meant. He asked where she was. Sam pointed outside with a huge grin. Goku gave him a playful glare that made Sam laugh. Goku walked outside trying to hide his excitement. He found Carol waiting for him and waved hello. Carol smiled brightly. Goku asked if there was a specific reason she came to visit. He quickly added that he was very happy to see her. Carol suggested they go for a walk so she could tell him on the way. Goku happily agreed and followed her. They bought ice cream and walked together. They had a great time and slowly drifted closer to each other. They stopped on a grassy mountain to rest. Goku looked up at the sky and asked what she wanted to tell him. Carol had completely forgotten her mission. Goku wrapped his arm around her. She rested her head on his shoulder and looked at the clouds. She felt incredibly happy and free. Only Goku made her feel this amazing. Carol finally remembered what she was going to say. She brought up their first date. Goku thought about her words. The moment was so perfect he did not care what they called it. He agreed that they talked about many things on their date. Hearing him call it a date made Carol blush deeply. She loved the sound of that word. She asked if he remembered the Skrulls. Goku remembered the shape-shifting race and asked what was wrong. He thought she helped them years ago. Carol explained that a rogue faction had formed. She told him the exact same story she told Fury. Goku understood the threat. He assured her it would not be a problem if they disguised themselves as humans. He explained that their energy signatures would remain completely different. Carol was amazed by his abilities. She asked if they could go get something to eat because she was starving. Goku cheered like an excited child. Carol thought he was adorable. They flew into the city together. Goku ate massive amounts of food while Carol sat awkwardly. She noticed everyone in the restaurant staring at his endless appetite. Afterward they returned to the Avengers base to say goodbye. This was the part they both hated the most. Carol briefly considered asking to stay at the base, but she felt it was way too soon for that. She smiled and told Goku she always had fun when they went out. Goku completely agreed. Carol sadly admitted it was time for her to leave. Her sadness vanished when Goku gently took both of her hands. He looked at her and said goodbye. Carol decided not to let him take all the initiative. She leaned forward and pressed a soft kiss to his cheek. Goku froze completely in place. Carol gave him a confident smirk even though her face was burning red. She flew away into the sky. Goku stood there paralyzed and blushing. Sam suddenly asked if he was going to stand there all day, or help them work. Goku jumped and asked how long Sam had been watching. Sam laughed and said he saw enough to know Carol was crazy about him. Goku stuttered and told Sam to shut up. He asked what they needed help with. Sam tried to stop laughing and told him they had to clean up a mess. He explained that the kid Goku met at the airport caused a plane crash. The plane was carrying Avengers equipment. They needed to recover the items before anyone stole them. Goku sighed and followed the team. At the crash site, several agents hauled a criminal known as the Vulture away to prison. Spider-Man quietly left the scene so the Avengers could work. Agents secured the perimeter. Nobody noticed a dark portal open among the scattered cargo. A mysterious operative asked his boss if this was part of the plan. He wondered why they came to Earth. The unknown leader laughed maliciously. He said he just wanted to leave a special gift for Son Goku. He placed a box on the ground and vanished into the shadows. Minutes later, the Avengers arrived and began collecting their belongings. Goku noticed something very strange. He shouted out to the team and pointed at a box. The box clearly had his name printed on the side. The others looked at him in confusion. Steve reminded him that nobody knew he was joining the team today. Steve added that his few belongings were already at the new base. Goku demanded to know why a box with his name was sitting in the wreckage. Steve and Sam and Natasha walked over to inspect it. Natasha confirmed it really did say his name. Sam muttered that it was completely impossible. Steve suggested they open it carefully. Goku agreed and pulled the lid off. The moment the box opened, a massive gust of wind knocked them all backward. A strange dark aura instantly wrapped around Goku. Natasha yelled and asked what was happening. Steve had no idea what to do. They watched in horror as Goku collapsed to the ground completely unconscious. The team rushed to his side. Steve ordered them to bring him to the base. Natasha looked at the remaining cargo. Steve told Sam to clean up the rest of the mess. Sam started to complain, but Steve gave him a stern glare. Sam sighed and agreed to finish the job. Steve carried Goku onto the jet. Far away in space, Carol sat on a floating asteroid after finishing a mission. She could not stop thinking about Goku. She remembered holding his hands and kissing his cheek. She realized she was deeply and truly in love with him. Suddenly a terrible feeling washed over her entirely. She did not know why, but her mind instantly screamed the name of Goku. She blasted toward Earth at maximum speed. She arrived at the base in minutes, but found it empty. She ran outside just as the Avengers jet landed. Her anxiety calmed for a moment, until the ramp lowered. She saw Steve carrying the unconscious body of Goku. Carol sprinted toward them and demanded to know what happened. Natasha said they did not know for sure. Carol began to panic. Steve said there was no time to explain and rushed Goku to the medical wing. They laid him on a bed and hooked him up to several monitors. Natasha wished Bruce was there to help them. Everyone relaxed slightly when they saw his vital signs were stable. It seemed he had simply passed out. Carol looked at the team and demanded a full explanation. Inside his own mind, Goku woke up in a completely empty void. For a second he thought he was back with the cosmic god, but he quickly realized this place was different. He groaned and asked why these things always happened to him. A mysterious voice echoed through the void. The voice welcomed him and said it was time to test his limits. Goku demanded to know who was speaking. Before he got an answer, a dark shadowy figure with glowing red eyes attacked him. Goku barely dodged the heavy punch. He shouted and asked who the shadow was. The shadow refused to answer. A brutal fight began between them. They traded heavy blows and kicks. Goku dropped his guard for a second. The shadow landed a massive punch directly to his face. Goku stumbled backward and prepared to fire a barrage of energy blasts. To his absolute shock, the shadow casually swatted 2 blasts away and countered the rest with its own energy spheres. Goku stood there stunned. The shadow laughed and mocked him for thinking he was the only one with powers. Goku cursed and charged forward. They clashed in another fierce exchange of strikes. Goku drove his knee into the stomach of the shadow and kicked its face. The shadow just rubbed its face and laughed wickedly. It asked Goku if he wanted to learn a new trick. Goku watched in pure confusion as the shadow moved its hands to its side. The shadow slowly chanted the words to the Kamehameha wave. A massive ball of destructive energy gathered in its hands. The shadow fired the colossal beam point blank. The blast hit Goku directly. The smoke cleared from the massive explosion. Goku was heavily wounded. The shadow walked slowly toward him. Goku panted heavily and asked who the monster was. The shadow told him to give up. Goku refused and instantly transformed into a Super Saiyan. The shadow was impressed he still had energy left. The shadow promised Goku would not interfere with the grand plan. They clashed again. This time Goku clearly had the advantage. But Goku made a fatal mistake and lowered his guard. A glowing blade of purple energy pierced straight through his chest. Goku gasped in pure agony. The shadow laughed and said it finally understood his true power. The monster promised it would not hurt when he woke up. Goku struggled to stay conscious. The shadow revealed the dark aura was just a tool to pull his soul into a mental battlefield. His physical body was perfectly safe in the real world. The shadow vanished into the darkness, leaving Goku to suffer. Back in the medical wing, Natasha finished telling Carol the story. Carol felt relieved that it was just a strange dark aura. Natasha assured her he would be fine. Steve left the room for a moment. Carol decided to wait for Goku to wake up. She walked out to the balcony to get some fresh air. She saw Wanda and Vision and Rode arriving at the base. Stark walked in behind them with a young teenager she did not recognize. Natasha walked up behind Carol. She noted how important Goku was to the cosmic hero. Carol admitted he made her feel things she never thought possible. Natasha said their connection was obvious to everyone. She said they looked at each other in a very special way. Carol blushed and hoped he felt the same way about her. Natasha guaranteed that he did. Tony and the others walked into the room. Wanda asked what was going on. Natasha gave them a quick summary of the dark aura and the incident at the crash site. Suddenly, the medical monitors started beeping wildly. Carol panicked and asked what was wrong. Tony yelled that his vital signs were dropping fast. Carol felt sheer terror grip her heart. Tony asked Steve to help him stabilize the Saiyan. Before they could do anything, Goku gasped loudly and snapped his eyes open. He grabbed his chest in a panic. He realized the shadow was telling the truth. His physical body was completely unharmed. Tony carefully asked if he was okay. Goku panted heavily and asked how long he was out. Natasha told him it had been an hour. Goku cursed and swung his legs over the side of the bed. Rode told him to take it easy. Goku promised he was perfectly fine. He looked up and saw Carol standing there with tears in her eyes. Natasha told the rest of the team to give them some privacy. The Avengers quickly left the room. Carol completely lost her composure. She called him an idiot and hugged him tightly. She sobbed into his shoulder and ordered him never to scare her like that again. Goku hugged her back and apologized softly. Carol wiped her tears and asked what happened to him. Goku promised to explain everything when the whole team was present. He tried to stand up, but Carol pushed him back down. She told him he needed to rest. Goku took her hands and swore he was completely healed. They stared deeply into each other's eyes. The moment was incredibly intense. Carol slowly leaned in toward his face. Suddenly Sam burst through the door shouting that he finally finished cleaning up the crash site. Goku quickly pulled away and awkwardly offered to help carry the boxes. Carol silently wished she could throw Sam directly into the sun. But he was a friend of Goku's, so she just sighed and followed them out. 10 minutes later, the entire team gathered in the lounge. Wanda asked Goku what happened while he was unconscious. Goku took a deep breath. He knew his story sounded like pure insanity. Sam could not believe Goku fought a living shadow. Goku pointed out that the experience was actually somewhat beneficial. Carol asked how getting stabbed in the chest by a shadow could possibly be a good thing. Goku gently took her hand to calm her down. Carol instantly relaxed at his touch. Goku smiled and said he learned some new tricks. Sam screamed in shock when a glowing purple energy blade ignited around the hand of Goku. Tony cursed and called him a Jedi. Goku laughed and said that was not all. He walked out into the open courtyard. The confused Avengers followed him outside. Vision asked what he was doing. Goku planted his feet and cupped his hands at his side. He perfectly executed the Kamehameha wave. A massive beam of blue energy blasted into the sky. The Avengers were completely speechless. They were shocked by the destructive power of the beam. They were even more amazed that he learned it just by watching his enemy do it once. Steve asked if he really copied the move from the shadow. Goku nodded. He explained he just had to sense how the shadow gathered its energy. The Avengers could only stare in pure awe. In a dark unknown location, the operative asked his boss how the test went. The shadow laughed wickedly. He claimed everything went exactly as planned. He successfully analyzed the combat style of the Saiyan. Furthermore, fighting Goku actually increased his own dark power. The operative asked what their next move was. The shadow smiled maliciously and announced it was time for Phase 2. Back at the base, Goku and Carol stood outside to say goodbye. Goku sadly noted it was time for her to leave again. Carol wished she could stay, but she had duties to attend to. Silence fell over them as they gazed at each other. The perfect opportunity presented itself once again. Carol refused to waste it. She leaned forward and pressed her lips gently against his. A jolt of electricity rushed through her body. The kiss felt exactly as amazing as she had always imagined. Goku stood frozen in total shock. But the feeling of her lips against his was indescribable. It was pure magic. He wrapped his arms around her waist and kissed her back. Carol felt an overwhelming surge of true happiness. They stood there kissing for several minutes. They finally pulled apart, gasping for air. Their faces were flushed bright red. Carol was so embarrassed she could barely speak. She stuttered a quick goodbye and blasted off into the sky. Goku stood there in a daze. He touched his lips and smiled brightly before walking back inside the base. Goku woke up the next morning in an incredible mood. He was so happy he completely forgot about the shadowy monster that attacked him. All he could think about was the perfect kiss he shared with Carol. He walked into the lounge and told Steve good morning. Steve greeted him back. Steve held back a laugh and noted how happy Goku looked. He teased Goku about his successful goodbye with Carol. Goku blushed heavily and struggled to find words. Natasha saved him by walking into the room with a cheerful greeting. She poured herself a cup of coffee. She told Goku that Tony built a special gravity machine for his training. She said Tony would drop it off later today. Goku was absolutely thrilled to see it. Steve asked why he loved training so much. Goku honestly did not know. He just wanted to get stronger every single day. His expression suddenly turned serious. He reminded them that a dangerous enemy was still out there. Steve agreed completely. Natasha asked what his plans were for the day. Goku decided to rest for a bit and wait for Tony. He planned to visit the Guardians later, to see if they knew anything about the shadow. After that he would just see where the day took him. Goku went back to his room to relax. The last few days had been crazy, but totally wonderful. He laid on his bed and wondered what Carol was doing right now. Carol was flying through deep space trying to clear her head. It was completely useless. She could not forget the incredible feeling of his lips against hers. It was the only thing on her mind. But a small part of her was terrified he might pull away from her. She decided to figure it out later. Right now she had to track down the rogue Skrulls and stop them from causing chaos. 2 hours later Tony arrived at the base with a massive gravity chamber. Goku thanked him enthusiastically. He knew this machine would push his limits. Tony explained it was meant for an old project that failed. Tony was glad someone could finally use it. Goku promised to start training immediately and ran off to the chamber. Steve laughed at his endless energy. Tony agreed the kid was a workaholic. Steve congratulated Tony on his upcoming wedding with Pepper. Tony offered his hand and invited Steve to the wedding. He admitted they had their differences, but he wanted to leave the past behind. Steve smiled and shook his hand firmly. Goku spent 3 brutal hours training under intense gravity. He finally finished his workout and decided it was time to visit the Guardians. He said goodbye to the team and locked onto the energy signature of Quill. 20 minutes later he found their ship drifting aimlessly in space. He opened the airlock and stepped inside. Quill was in the middle of a story but stopped when he saw his friend. Quill cheered and asked what brought him back. Goku admitted a lot of crazy things had happened. Gamora asked what he meant. Goku sat down and told them the whole story. He explained his cosmic origins and the defeat of Frieza. He also told them about the shadow that attacked his mind. Gamora was stunned to learn he was from another universe. Quill agreed it was mind-blowing. Rocket said they did not know anything about the shadow. He explained they investigated the Reality Stone incident, but found nothing. They only learned that Goku had already been there. Goku thanked them anyway. He quietly asked Quill if they could speak in private. Quill smirked and agreed. They walked to a quiet corner of the ship. Quill immediately asked for an update on Carol. Goku rubbed his neck nervously. He confessed they shared a real kiss the night before. Quill screamed in shock. He could not believe Goku had better luck with romance than he did. Goku just laughed awkwardly. Quill asked if they were officially a couple now. Goku said she flew away right after the kiss, because she was too embarrassed. Quill told him she was definitely head over heels in love with him. He ordered Goku to go find her and make things official. Goku agreed it was the right thing to do. He decided to leave right away. He said goodbye to Quill and blasted off at maximum speed to find Carol. Carol was patrolling a quiet sector of space. She suddenly spotted a familiar white streak of energy. Her heart started pounding nervously. She had not forgotten the kiss. She gathered her courage and flew directly toward him. The two glowing auras faded away as they stopped face to face. Goku said hello. Carol smiled and noted this was exactly how they met the first time. Goku remembered that perfect moment too. Carol asked if there was a specific reason he came all the way out here. She quickly added that she always loved spending time with him. Goku stumbled over his words. He blushed furiously. He admitted he wanted to talk about what happened between them the night before. Carol turned bright red and said she wanted to talk about the same thing. Goku took a deep breath and grabbed both of her hands. He asked her to be his official girlfriend. Carol beamed with pure joy. She told him she had waited for this moment since the day they met. She confessed she was incredibly happy. They both smiled warmly at each other. They leaned forward and shared another beautiful kiss. It felt just as magical as the first time. Carol asked if he wanted to fly around the galaxy together. Goku happily agreed. They spent the next 5 hours exploring the stars side by side. It did not feel like 5 hours to them. This kind of pure romance was entirely new to both of them. They used to prefer fighting and training over anything else, but falling in love changed everything. Carol knew they had to say goodbye eventually. She was already planning a massive surprise for him tomorrow, but first she needed to pack all her belongings. To save time, she decided they should part ways right now. They shared a sweet goodbye kiss. Carol blasted off to pack her bags. 30 minutes later, Goku arrived back at the Avengers base. He greeted the team in the lounge. Steve asked if the Guardians knew anything useful. Goku shook his head. Natasha said it was a shame, but they would figure it out eventually. Goku hoped she was right. The next morning, at 7 o'clock, Carol landed at the compound. She was carrying several heavy suitcases. She stretched her aching muscles after carrying the heavy bags across the galaxy. She walked inside and found Steve drinking coffee on the couch. Steve asked what she was doing there with luggage. Carol nervously asked him for a huge favor. Steve told her to name it. Carol revealed that she and Goku were officially a couple now. Steve nodded and said Goku told him the good news. Carol nervously asked if she could move into the base. Steve smiled and welcomed her to the team. But he warned her there was one small problem. He explained they were completely out of empty bedrooms. It would take a while to build a new one. He gave her two choices. She could wait a few weeks for a new room, or she could share a room with Goku. Carol thought about it. She really did not want to wait, but she also felt that sleeping in the same bed after only one day of dating was moving a bit too fast. However, she would rather share a bed than be away from him. She boldly declared she would stay in the room with Goku. Steve smiled and said he knew she would pick that option. Goku walked into the lounge yawning loudly. He rubbed his eyes and was shocked to see Carol standing there. He asked what she was doing at the base so early. Carol walked over and kissed his cheek. She promised to show him a surprise. Steve politely excused himself to give them space. Goku smiled and asked what the surprise was. Carol led him outside to the pile of suitcases. Goku asked who owned all the luggage. Carol proudly announced they belonged to her. Goku lit up with excitement. He realized this meant she was moving in. Carol confirmed she was staying for good. Goku cheered and asked which room she got. Carol nervously explained that Steve ran out of rooms, so they had to share. She worried how he might react. Goku did not feel pressured at all. He was genuinely thrilled to spend more time with her. He grabbed her hand and happily led her to their shared bedroom. Carol loved him even more for being so sweet and accepting. They decided to worry about shadowy monsters and rogue skrulls later. Right now they just wanted to be together. Carol woke up the next morning feeling incredibly warm and safe. She slowly opened her eyes and realized she was wrapped tightly in the arms of Goku. She smiled softly. Waking up next to him felt exactly as perfect as she dreamed it would. Goku yawned loudly and wished her a good morning. Carol kissed him gently and returned the greeting. They both felt totally free and blissfully happy. It was a beautiful new experience for both of them. Goku sat up and announced he was going down to the lounge. Carol gently pulled him back down. She gave him a cute pleading look and asked him to stay in bed just a little longer. She argued that Steve was probably not even awake yet. Goku could never say no to those eyes. He agreed the bed was incredibly comfortable and pulled the blankets back up. Carol smiled triumphantly and rested her head on his chest. Goku wrapped his arm around her and they drifted back to sleep with matching smiles. 2 hours later they finally decided to get up. Carol really did not want to leave the warm bed, but she knew they had to. Goku yawned and wrapped his arms around her waist. He pulled her close and gave her a passionate morning kiss. Carol blushed wildly. She told him she had no idea he could be so romantic. Goku tried to act serious, but she silenced him with another sweet kiss. She told him not to act tough because she loved his romantic side. She took his hand and led him downstairs. Goku followed her feeling incredibly flustered. When they reached the lounge, the team greeted them warmly. Carol walked over to chat with Wanda and Natasha. The women immediately started gossiping about the new couple. Goku sat with Steve to talk about hero business. Suddenly the front doors opened, and Tony Stark walked in. Steve looked confused. He reminded Tony he was supposed to be spending the day with Pepper. Tony nervously looked around the room. He claimed his plans changed at the last minute. Natasha noticed he was acting very strange. She asked if everything was all right. Tony aggressively insisted he was perfectly fine. He kept staring directly at Carol with a nervous twitch. Suddenly the new cell phone Tony gave Goku started ringing. Goku checked the caller ID and looked extremely confused. He looked up at the Tony standing in the room. The man did not have a phone in his hand. Goku answered the call and cautiously said the name of the billionaire. The voice on the phone sarcastically asked who else it would be. The real Tony asked how the gravity machine was working out. Goku asked where he was. The rest of the Avengers watched the bizarre scene unfold. The real Tony said he was with Pepper and asked why Goku sounded so weird. Goku quickly hung up the phone. The real Tony yelled in frustration at the deadline. Goku stared at the fake Tony standing in the lounge. Carol asked if everything was okay. Goku told her to watch closely. He vanished and reappeared directly behind the imposter. Goku chopped the back of his neck with incredible precision. The fake Tony instantly collapsed to the floor unconscious. Goku looked at his hands and praised the effectiveness of his new gravity training. Natasha screamed and ran toward the unconscious body. She demanded to know what Goku was doing. Goku calmly told them to look closely at the body. The skin of the fake Tony began to bubble and shift. His clothes and face morphed entirely. Carol shouted that it was a Skrull. Goku nodded and explained he figured it out from the strange behavior and the phone call. Wanda asked what a Skrull was. Goku and Carol sighed at the same time. Carol explained her entire history with the shape-shifting aliens. She told them about the dangerous Illuminati faction. Steve realized how terrifying a shape-shifting enemy could be. Carol noted that they could copy faces but not superhuman powers. Natasha agreed that was a critical weakness. Vision remained fascinated by their biology. Carol suggested they lock the alien in a cell and interrogate him. Several Avengers hauled the Skrull down to the holding block. Goku and Carol were left alone in the lounge. Carol stared at him with pure admiration. She told him he was absolutely incredible. Goku rubbed his neck nervously. He was still not used to getting genuine compliments. Carol smiled and told him he'd better get used to it quickly. She promised to give him thousands of compliments in the future. She leaned forward and kissed his cheek. Goku laughed nervously and promised to return the favor. Carol gave him a devastatingly flirtatious smile and walked down to the holding cells. Goku stood there blushing furiously before shaking his head and following her down the hall. 2 hours later, the Skrull woke up inside a reinforced glass cell. The Avengers stood on the other side watching him. The Skrull sneered and realized he was looking at the famous Avengers. Steve asked if the alien knew them. The Skrull laughed and claimed his team already had everything they needed. He mocked Captain Marvel for thinking she could stop them. Carol demanded to know what he meant. The Skrull revealed he only infiltrated the base to gather intel on the facility. He claimed that seeing the raw power of Son Goku was the final piece of the puzzle. He stated Goku was their primary target and that chaos would follow his defeat. Goku stepped forward and glared at the alien. He asked if the Skrull knew the shadow monster that attacked him. The Skrull proudly confessed that they created the monster themselves. Goku realized they used the reality stone on Nowhere to bring the shadow to life. Carol demanded to know the identity of the shadow. The Skrull laughed and said humanity deserved to die. He refused to give a name. He only warned that the leader possessed incredible abilities that rivaled the Saiyan. Natasha realized the shadow was the leader of the rogue faction. The Skrull corrected her with fanatical devotion. He claimed the leader was a divine light of justice who showed them the true path. He warned the heroes to prepare themselves for an imminent attack. Wanda asked what kind of attack he meant. The Skrull promised Goku would meet his end very soon. He then stated he was leaving. Sam laughed and pointed out he was locked in an impenetrable vault. The Skrull smirked maliciously. Suddenly the power grid failed. The entire facility went pitch black. A deafening crash echoed as the ceiling of the holding cell was ripped open. Goku recognized the dark energy instantly. The shadow greeted Goku warmly. The monster apologized for the intrusion and grabbed the Skrull. Goku stepped into a fighting stance and swore the monster was not leaving. The shadow laughed and told them to enjoy their last few hours of peace. The monster promised to return soon with an army. The shadow brought his hands up to his face and screamed the name of the solar flare technique. A blinding flash of pure white light instantly blinded everyone in the room. When their vision finally cleared, the emergency lights flickered back on. The shadow and the Skrull were completely gone. Carol cursed loudly in frustration. She was incredibly worried about the safety of Goku. Goku felt her anxiety, and gently took her hand. Carol instantly relaxed at his touch, but the fear remained in her eyes. Steve ordered everyone to mobilize immediately. He warned that a massive Skrull invasion was about to begin. Natasha agreed and ran to the armory. Goku started to follow them, but Carol squeezed his hand tightly. She was terrified of losing him. Goku pulled her into a tight hug, and promised he would be fine. He swore nothing could hurt them if they fought side by side. Carol nodded slowly, and told him to be careful. Goku promised he would. He told her to suit up while he called the Guardians of the Galaxy for backup. 3 hours later, a massive coalition of heroes stood on a rocky mountain. Steve led a team consisting of Goku, Carol, Iron Man, WandaVision, Natasha, Spider-Man, Rhodey, Sam, and the Guardians. They stared up at the sky waiting for the invasion. Steve asked if everyone was ready. Goku cracked his knuckles and nodded. Carol pointed at the clouds as a massive warship descended from orbit. Hundreds of rogue Skrulls poured out of the ship. They were joined by brainwashed soldiers from dozens of different alien armies. Quill cursed at the sheer size of the army. Rocket racked his heavy blaster, and yelled that it was time to fight. The battle erupted instantly. The invaders wielded devastating alien artillery enhanced by the dark energy of the shadow. Explosions and laser fire tore the mountain apart. The heroes quickly gained the upper hand against the foot soldiers. Suddenly the elite Skrull shock troopers joined the fray. The escaped Skrull spy led the elite forces. The battle turned brutal. Steve noticed a large detachment of the army breaking away and heading directly for the populated city. Stark warned they were going to slaughter civilians. Goku quickly formulated a plan. He ordered Steve, Stark, WandaVision, and Natasha to intercept the squad heading for the city. Goku promised the rest of them would hold the line on the mountain. Steve nodded and ordered his team to move out. Goku told Carol to go with Steve to protect the city. Carol stubbornly refused to leave his side. The ominous words of the Skrull echoed in her mind. They said Goku was the primary target, and that he would die today. Goku smiled gently, and told her not to worry. He reminded her he had the Guardians and Spider-Man backing him up. Carol hesitated but finally agreed to go. She promised to return as quickly as possible. Goku told her to hurry. Carol grabbed him and kissed him deeply in the middle of the battlefield. Quill and Gamora watched the passionate kiss in complete shock. Carol blasted off toward the city with the Avengers. Goku flew over to help Quill and Gamora. Quill blasted a Skrull and stared at Goku in awe. He asked if that insanely powerful woman was really Carol. Goku smiled proudly and confirmed she was. Gamora looked incredibly confused. Goku apologized for not introducing them properly. He proudly announced that Carol Danvers was his official girlfriend. Quill smiled happily for his friend. Gamora, however, frowned deeply. She felt a sharp pang of jealousy hearing Goku belonged to someone else. She had developed strange feelings for him during their travels. She recently started feeling a connection with Quill, but the news still stung. She shook her head and focused on the battle. Goku spotted Spider-Man getting overwhelmed by a squad of soldiers. He flew down and effortlessly cleared the enemies away. He asked if the kid needed a hand. Peter thanked Mr. Goku profusely. Goku told him not to mention it. Peter was shocked and asked how Goku knew his real name. Goku laughed and reminded him they were both Avengers. He knew all their secret identities. Peter nodded and agreed that made sense. The chaotic battle ended 20 minutes later. The heroes stood victorious over the broken army. The two teams regrouped on the mountain. Carol flew straight to Goku and kissed him passionately. Gamora turned her back to the couple and refused to watch. Rhodey sighed in relief and declared the war was over. Sam looked at the hundreds of unconscious soldiers and asked what they were supposed to do with them. A chilling voice echoed from the rocks above. The voice volunteered to take care of the trash. Every hero spun around and raised their weapons. The shadowy monster stood casually on a high cliff. Quill asked if that was the monster that attacked the mind of the Saiyan. Goku confirmed it was the same entity. Drax admitted he originally doubted the story, but seeing the living shadow changed his mind. The Skrull spy cheered from the dirt and praised his master for saving them. The shadow glared down at his defeated army in pure disgust. He floated down and offered his hand to the injured Skrull spy. The Skrull smiled and took his hand. The smile vanished when the shadow crushed his bones with a sickening crunch. The shadow called them all pathetic failures. He raised his hand and fired a titanic wave of dark energy. The blast instantly incinerated his own loyal army, turning them all to ash. The shadow floated back up to the high cliff so everyone could see him clearly. Goku glared at the monster and swore he would not let this stand. He promised to train harder than ever before and destroy him. The shadow threw his head back and laughed maniacally. He begged Goku to train as hard as possible. The monster claimed that whenever Goku grew stronger he would instantly become twice as powerful. Goku demanded to know what he meant by that impossible statement. The rest of the heroes watched the tense exchange in utter silence. The shadow laughed darkly, and slowly began to pull back the dark aura covering his body. Carol gasped and realized he was finally revealing his true face. Violent bolts of dark lightning crashed from the sky as the shadows faded away. The true face of the monster was finally exposed to the world. Every single hero on the mountain screamed in absolute horror. The Avengers stared in complete disbelief. The unmasked monster smiled wickedly, and declared that the final day of the Saiyan had finally arrived. Who was the monster hiding behind the shadows? Find out in the next part.